Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Caring Economy with me, Toby Usnik. Today I have as my guest Katrina Van Gasse. She is a former Fulbright Scholar, as I am. She's also been vice president of Silicon Valley Bank. And now she is not only a great motivated speaker and leader, but she is the CEO and co-founder of AidKit, which we're going to talk about today. So with no further ado, welcome to the Caring Economy, Katrina.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Toby. It's really great to be here.
So, Katrina, we always start by asking our guests to tell us a little bit about their life journey, how they got where they got, maybe some mentors, the role their parents played, and then even maybe some pivots you made along the way. So,
Let's see. So I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and I think my career journey really started back in college. I went to Santa Clara University as part of the business school there, and honestly felt like a disconnect of where was the human side of business. And so it led me to discover the Center of Science, Technology, and Society, which was a group there, and they were really focused on social entrepreneurship. So that was like my first kind of deep dive in social entrepreneurship. And I was really gravitated towards the concept of using business to solve the world's most pressing problems. And so through that experience, I did a fellowship in Uganda, and I got to work with different social enterprises there. And Kiva was one of them. And they
mhm.
are an international organization that gives microfinance loans to people across the world. And so that was my first really on the ground impactful experience, was seeing the power of giving someone cash, and then also just this concept of a fundamental distribution problem that I saw of, we have all these resources, yet there's groups of people, families, whole societies where they're lacking resources, and how do we create bridges of resources to people who need them? And that was kind of a thread that in curiosity, that I've held on to. So I did that, and then fast forward to graduating from Santa Clara. I was going through the confusing time for many people of, what do you do with, what's your first job? And is your first job like the determination of your whole life moving forward? I found myself working with a entrepreneur that I actually met through that center. And so it was a small social enterprise called Artisan Connect. And I wanted to get that on the ground experience again of working with a social enterprise, but then felt that I needed to kind of transition to a more established organization to build out a skill set. And that's what led me to Silicon Valley Bank, which was a really interesting job of just getting to work with many types of businesses, many type of passionate entrepreneurs, and understanding the complexities of different business models. I hit a point there after about 4 years where I felt like I got the skills that I was looking to gain, and it never was the end goal for me to stay there. And so I felt like now I have a more useful skill set to bring back to the social impact world. And that's what led me to do the Fulbright Scholarship in Fiji in the South Pacific.
Mhm.
And I kind of took a different approach to the Fulbright. Mine was less of a research project and more of a starting a program there. My hope was that it would continue after I left.
Mhm.
And so I went there and worked with women entrepreneurs and a microfinance bank, built out an accelerator program there called Fiji Bloom that's still going on today. I came back to Colorado, which is where I live now. After that experience, I again was in a confusing place of, what do I do after this like crazy Fiji experience? How am I going to find anything that is interesting to me? And so I found myself, looking of what would be interesting, and trying to connect with people that I had worked with in the past and really respected in the past. And that's how I reconnected with Mark, who is one of my other co-founders. The conversation led to direct cash assistance, and it was something I was thinking about, and him as well. And then we decided, like, let's informally explore the concept of direct cash assistance, and can this be intervention for certain populations or for certain circumstances? And then 2 weeks later, COVID hit. That's when we really saw a need within the undocumented community in Colorado, and thought this is an opportunity for us to pilot
Life.
direct cash assistance. And then that led to the establishment of Left Behind Workers Fund, which is a program now that's delivered over $38 million to over 25,000 undocumented workers in Colorado. That was the origination of AidKit. And so through Left Behind Workers Fund, we built out a tech platform to support Left Behind Workers Fund. And then we realized that there was many other programs, many other populations across the country that could benefit from this tool. And that's what led us to spin out AidKit as a separate company. Now we are a part of over 20 different guaranteed income programs and direct cash pilots across the country.
I've got so many follow-up questions. Going back to child real quickly, I just want to understand, you had this desire, this burning passion somehow within you. Was it something your parents stoked, your community? How did you kind of get this calling to kind of make the world a better place?
I've always been a observer, just growing up as an only child and being just in my kind of family history. I've always been really looking outward at what are other people's experiences and really finding compassion and relatability with that.
Mhm.
And so I think it kind of started early on for me, and the work that I'm doing now, I think to be successful, it requires a heart-centered approach and really trying to understand many different perspectives of
Mhm.
how you create something that's going to be successful.
Tell us a little bit about Silicon Valley Bank, because it's not your typical JP Morgan Chase, right?
There's a startup bank and they have, different divisions. I was on the venture team. So I was working with startup companies that were raising venture capital. I wasn't specifically in the life science medical department. So companies coming up with different biomedical products or like cures to cancer. So really just fascinating leaders of those companies. And they were in the stage of growing their business and traditionally can't qualify for many loans or outside investment support. And so we would take risk and kind of evaluate the business model and potential future success and lend money alongside other VCs. There is just value of being a part of a established company where they do have, the resources for helping someone grow and kind of supporting that process and really learning the rigor behind the private sector.
And then, of course, life throws curveballs. So, for example, you're talking about COVID, you're about to launch something, COVID hits, and then you realize this is our real life experiment. Did that realization come to you like a light bulb going off over your head, or was it a deductive process?
We started thinking about cash assistance and we're, more casually looking at what populations could benefit from this. Like we were looking at people who are recently incarcerated, that receive $100 after they get out of prison. And that's obviously not really enough to even have more than a few days of living, in a hotel. We were exploring certain population sets, and then it was that dramatic when COVID hit of people in the community immediately lost their jobs, lost their businesses. The undocumented community wasn't receiving the stimulus check and they didn't qualify for unemployment insurance. So there was a clear and pressing and urgent need. And it wasn't like we could ponder and, sit around debating what populations. It was like, we need to set this up. So we
Mhm.
put together a pilot and raised $200,000 in about 3 weeks, started getting cash assistance out.
It's always interesting to me to see the sort of the silver linings that come with these things. It's not always one-sided, right? What about the politicization that goes on in the world now, particularly at that time? Colorado, you have your blue and your red competitions. Did politics present a particular challenge to you as you were trying to work with undocumented workers, or did you kind of stay above the fray?
One of our missions of Left Behind Workers Fund was to get public sector support for this community. We had to do that in a kind of strategic way. Once we were able to get the city of Denver to use public funding to support Left Behind Workers Fund, they were the first public entity to contribute. That allowed us to then take that and go back to the state, and re-ask the governor for support. Eventually, the state did contribute. First it was 5 million, and it was only for a rental assistance program because they were uncomfortable with funds directly going to people. So if it went to a landlord, that kind of got around potential risk. And so this is a clear need. Rental systems is huge. And so we'll do it. And so we did it. And then after that, we were able to eventually continue working with them, created a partnership. The need was apparent. And now they've contributed over $20 million to Left Behind Workers Fund. So they're the biggest funder. Our third goal was to change the law in Colorado and to actually get unemployment insurance equity for this group. The state of Colorado we got a bill that was implemented this last legislative session, and they will be having the first unemployment insurance program, permanent benefit for undocumented workers, and AidKit will be supporting the implementation of that. So it's a really full circle program and kind of cool to see a cash assistance program lead to permanent policy change.
So the bill is in process and it's intended to pass both houses.
It has passed.
First
Yes.
of its kind in the nation, I would think. No?
Yeah, it will be the first of its kind.
Congratulations. That's really cool. Let's move then to AidKit. So tell our listeners about it. What is it? How does it work? How do they find it if they think they can support it or partake in it?
The mission of AidKit is to help organizations and governments deliver cash assistance or guaranteed income efficiently, effectively, and with dignity. And what we are is we're a united technology platform or tool that supports every stage of the process of running one of these direct cash assistance or guaranteed income programs. And so we've really purpose built our tool for this use case. And what that means kind of in practicality is we support outreach, we host the application on AidKit, we review and verify any documents that are uploaded, we have a applicant support function, and we distribute payments to banked and unbanked. Doing this with dignity is a really critical piece of how we have designed AidKit and why we are the preferred partner for many of these programs
Mhm.
is because we've created a tool that's extremely accessible to hard to reach populations. So we can offer the application in as many languages as we need to, have text to speech capability. So if someone has trouble with literacy, everything is read out loud, and we have different payment options. And so the accessibility piece has been
Mhm.
something that I'm really proud of.
It sounds to me like you're both B2B and B2C. Is that right? You know how to interact with the consumers, the unbanked and all that, but then you also are being the vendor or partner of choice for these businesses, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so usually we will partner with a government agency, could be a city that's, running a guaranteed income pilot, or it could be a nonprofit that is really focused on the unhoused that wants to set up their own direct cash assistance or guaranteed income program for that population. And we work with them to set up the program and administer the program. And all of our relationships look a little bit different based on like what the partner is wanting to do and bringing to the table. But we do have our own applicant support team that can provide direct applicant support if applicants do have questions while they're filling out the application or payment issues come
Uh-huh.
up. So in some of our programs, we're providing that applicant support, and then in other programs, we're really empowering these community-based organizations that have direct relationships with the community to
Mhm.
use our tool to run the program.
For our general listeners, is there an example you can give us of maybe from start to finish of what AidKit has done with?
We've run a lot of programs in Chicago recently, the city of Chicago and Cook County. They've really dedicated a lot of resources towards and funding towards setting up these guaranteed income pilots and working with their communities. So we have partnered with Give Directly on those programs. And for those who don't know, Give Directly, they're a large international nonprofit that also delivers direct cash assistance. And so we have kind of a special relationship with them where they are taking more of the program administrative role, and they're using our tech platform to implement the application, payments. They use our tool to do the review, but they're providing all of the human power behind it.
Hmm.
And so in that example, we set up, I think Cook County, that's the largest guaranteed income program in the country right now, and one that was recently launched. So we worked with them and have, set up the application, and over 250,000 people applied. And there was a research team that we're also working with. And so a lottery was drawn, and a few thousand people were selected to enroll.
Mm.
and actually receive direct cash. And so all of that took place on AidKit, and first payments will be going out this month.
How do you see traditional banks, or how do they see you? Because it seems to me you're filling a need where there's just no facility for people who are unbanked or who just don't have the access.
I mean, these programs are pretty complex, so it's more than just payments. I think that's really the need we are filling, is to run a direct cash assistance program. Most other groups out there, they're trying to glue together many different systems. So they're trying to glue together a bank to do, direct deposits, and then they realize maybe they need a payment option for people who are unbanked. All of these separate tools that are needed, which creates a lot of inefficiency, a lot of redundancy, digital manual labor in like spreadsheets and trying to manage all of that. And then the rigor of verification can't be as strong when you have so many things just split across different systems. I don't think any single bank can run a direct cash assistance program on its own. I think it's used as a part of these programs trying to piece together many different systems, but we've just found that it's very complex, and that's where the value of AidKit is. Everything is done in one unified system, so you get a lot of efficiency.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, today on the Caring Economy, we have Katrina Van Gasse with us. She is the co-founder and CEO of AidKit, which we're talking about today. Really fascinating to see how the entrepreneurial spirit is being applied to assisting people who need it. Do you think of yourself as a serial entrepreneur? How do you define yourself?
I think of myself as someone who's very honored to be doing this type of work, and that I get to work with the team I get to work with and be a part of something that is much bigger than myself, and even much bigger than AidKit. And so I feel like I'm a piece that's helping steer the ship forward that could really make a big difference for a lot of people and drive a lot of impact.
Briefly, you mentioned international, and also you had your Fulbright experience. How does the international landscape fit in? You've partnered with that one organization you said Chicago. Do you aspire to be international one day?
We've been really focused on the US. And so we are right now just domestic. I think we have a lot of opportunity just as a company, and as we explore this market more, that I think international, could be in our future. I think it's a possibility.
You're commercial, but I would imagine because of the social impact aspect of it, you could also be working with philanthropists and private offices. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, no, definitely. We have a mix of private funding and government funding. So we can do both. I think we're interested in helping bring more momentum to direct cash assistance movement, and be where we can innovate to figure out how to get cash assistance to populations that are still hard to reach.
Mhm.
That's what we're kind of focused on, and wherever we can have the most scale with our tool and drive the most impact. COVID helped spur the movement of people being more open to cash assistance and seeing the need, and that as more evidence comes out that is supporting the benefits of direct cash assistance, I think it's shifting people's perceptions and creating more openness for experimentation, and recognizing that this is a really valuable intervention.
What's the best way to find you or AidKit if someone wants to join in or support?
Our website is very comprehensive, and for those who might be building their own direct cash assistance program, or a part of a team that's looking at that as an intervention, you can book a demo with us to really see our tool in action. I think that's always useful. It's easy to talk about software, but better to actually see how it works. So I think that's the best way.
A different question. I'm wondering, where are you scaling the most, deliberately or by chance, that you're seeing? Like you mentioned, Cook County and in Illinois. Are there certain parts of the country or certain communities that are just really burgeoning in ways that you didn't anticipate or that you did go after?
We're scaling the most with just being a part of these larger guaranteed income pilots, which is where we're definitely interested in putting our efforts, because we're able to impact the most people. And then even when you think about research, when you can have a program that is working with over 1,000 people, you're going to get research that can be more compelling to then make the case for other cash assistance programs and, actually create permanent change and for some of these communities that are facing systemic barriers. So I think we're finding that our combination of having really rigorous fraud protection and having a lot of integrity behind how we build AidKit with the accessibility piece has made us a good fit for these government programs that are, interested in taking that on and have the funds to have a scaled out program. So I think we're kind of finding a niche there, and then still obviously wanting to support other innovative programs that might be at the smaller stage.
That suggests to me that you're not transacting in crypto. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement. That's correct.
Well, I mean, that is still evolving too. It's just
Yeah.
fascinating to watch. So we talk a lot on this show about diversity, equity, inclusion, DE&I. Certainly the communities you're serving are diverse and need greater representation. What about your own house, your own team? Are you practicing it as well internally? Do you have a diverse employee population? And how do you manifest those kinds of values?
Looking at our team, which I love our team, we have a diverse background on our team. So our team members come from different socioeconomic backgrounds, race, ethnicities, talent, education, gender, so forth. And we've been thoughtful about hiring people that will add to our, DEI. I think we're a new startup, so we're, continuing to take steps in that direction and be thoughtful in that regard. And I think it's important for not only our team, but as you pointed out, with the populations that we're working with, to really be identifying people that will add to help us better work with hard to reach populations and just the different type of clients that we have. Good example of that is one of our first program manager hires. To this, I'm still doing program management as a CEO because we have a small team. So our first program manager outside hire, who is running a direct cash assistance program in Washington, D.C. for early childcare educators.
Uh-huh.
She's a Amharic speaker and actually comes from a background of education. And that was really pivotal to the success of that program, because a significant portion of the early childcare educators in DC are Ethiopian and speak Amharic. And so our program manager was really able to bring that relatability and skill set to the table when collaborating with the community and coming up with design and kind of teaching them about eligibility requirements and providing applicant support and all of that. And so I think that was like a successful example of how that even impacted our kind of end work and working with the applicant, which is our highest mission of what we're doing.
Really fascinating to hear that. So I'm imagining that you're dancing as fast as you can, never time to kind of relax, but still, you do. I suspect you're a lifelong learner like I am. So, in addition to your network and the projects you're doing, how do you stay atop of current affairs and news? Are there certain resources you go to keep an objective view of what's going on in the world?
Podcasts are big for me, just because I think I can put them on, when I'm like making breakfast and at night. And I think it's just an easy way for me to digest information. Yeah, for news, NPR, The Economist, philosophical thinkers out there that dive more deeply into topics and kind of bring that groundedness. I'm a big Sam Harris fan, not only his Making Sense podcasts, but his meditation app. And so honestly, that's the most I think grounding piece for me, is just if I can, which not always up to what I'd like to be, but just taking time to meditate and having something that's grounding like that to push the noise away.
Yeah, absolutely. Every day I try to walk and I do try to do a little meditation. And actually, it's been proven in data and research that a lot of business leaders do that. They have their daily routine, usually meditation or other things. Words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom. So I think following curiosity is really key. And I think that kind of framing, for me at least, takes the pressure off of you have to know what you're going to be and you need to have this grand plan. I think it's just about really understanding what you're curious about and just following that thread and seeing where that takes you. So I'd say that. And I think that leads me to my second words of wisdom, which would be around being intentional about what you consume. Like almost like what you consume is what you become. And so I think it's important to understand the agency that we do have to decide how we do want to create our environment and where we can make shifts to um, you know get find connections. If you're interested in climate change, like find some connections of people that are doing interesting work there, or find a volunteering activity, or start like listening to more about climate change, and you're slowly going to shift your environment to be what you want, and that'll manifest a lot of opportunities. Yeah, just being really intentional about what you consume, like what you're putting into your life, where you can, recognizing like people obviously have barriers that they face in that, but where you can take agency, I think it's important. Maybe even more importantly, as advice would be that the inward journey is really important, because ultimately, like, even if you have these amazing mentors, people will help you discover things in your life, but being able to trust yourself and know when something feels exciting, know when something feels wrong, when it's a toxic environment, when you should say no, when you should say yes, I think is the most important guiding principle that you can have. And so just finding the space and the quietude, and knowing that you have all the answers inside, but other people, it's great to have other people and resources to help guide you there.
Really great advice. When you talk about agency, I'm also reminded that we all have so much we don't necessarily take stock of. We do have agency, we have good fortune, we have platforms, we have more sway than we sometimes think. So again, since the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor murders, I've thought about challenging people regularly each day to say, when you sit down for a meeting or you start a new project, just ask ourselves, how can this be more inclusive, this exercise? How can it be more progressive? And if everyone at the table is thinking that way and everyone's opinions matter, then I think it can only become more diverse and more progressive. So I like reminding people they do have that kind of sway, because sometimes people are lost in thinking, what can I do, little old me? And in fact, there's so much, as you say. Katrina Van Gasse, thank you so much for joining us on The Caring Economy. Ladies and gentlemen, be in touch. Check out AidKit if you're interested in supporting or getting involved. She is the co-founder and CEO, and we're wishing you a great holiday. And
Great, thanks so much.